welcome back to More Than Peaches Gaming. I'm your host, Mune, and right now I'm just kind of playing a moment of some Blaze Blue Cross Battle Tag. It is just the, uh, you know, beta that is up and available for free still. So if you still haven't tried out the game, it's still available just offline. You can only use one of four characters. But that's not what I'm going on about this evening, going on about all the stuff leading up to our E3. We did have our E3 press conference for EA, and we are still expecting other ones to pop up. And a lot of stuff has been like talked about, about what's going to end up becoming kind of like the big foreground of all these events. And one of the big things I'd like to talk about is, you know, what has been announced, what has kind of piqued my interest, and why I'm a little bit concerned about E3 this year. And one of the big reasons why I'm concerned about E3 is because one of the few things that is going on is big name titles are available or being announced, should I say. And we are looking at a possible definitive shift on what exactly E3 means to a lot of people. And as you know, E3 is a big press conference throughout the world, not just here in the United States, but it's kind of a big deal everywhere. It's when big companies of video games decide to go and make announcements for titles, sometimes release dates, other times hands-on, and so forth. And the press releases are meant to make those big announcements. Nintendo has gone away with their very much old way of doing things, of just making releases to more of a hands-on approach. And it's kind of ridiculous how bad it has gotten with some of these companies. And generally, my rule of thumb is you make an announcement for a game, and then when you're ready to release it, is basically when you go and make your big announcements. Whereas a lot of companies, like, I don't know, good old Squeenix, does a pretty damn good job of making their announcements and trying to figure out making their announcements basically, is it for the best, is it for the worst? And that brings this to a big open area when it comes to Square Enix. Is Square Enix technically a good company when it comes to announcements for E3? As many of you already viewing this are well aware, Kingdom Hearts does have a release date for their big third installment, which is January 29th of 2019 in North America. And I believe it's like 5 days earlier in Japan, which is cool, but also not so cool. You know, but at the same point, what's that leave for, the press conference? Because their press conference isn't until Monday. And if you have a situation where you released your biggest title, basically, that a bunch of people are waiting for, what are you going to showcase is better the question during that period of time. And some people have speculated, oh yeah, we're going to get totally a new Final Fantasy. I don't believe for half a second that we're going to get a new Final Fantasy. Aw, so close. But at the same point, maybe it's the right time, because 15's out, doing well, and maybe we will have a better time with adjusting to that. Another possibility is having a lot of screen time for their other titles, like their 15 spin off stuff, their episodes, which I believe are releasing roughly over the next 6 months or so. And Final Fantasy 15 is doing really well in sales, uh, much like the company basically said, well, this kind of paid off, and I could see that. And me personally, I haven't really played 15, so I don't know how good it is. Wow, what a dick move. So yeah. So one of the major things that I think is also wary is if they're making these big announcements, does this mean that a press conference for Square Enix is going to be big? My answer is probably. What can we expect from it? Who knows? I would say a lot of rumors are going around for whatever titles that they have, and I know a lot of people are like, "Oh, they're stepping away from what really made their company and focusing on other things." And I'm also kind of wondering what uh, Square Enix is going to do about uh, other things. In particular, are they going to stay on the map? And same thing with Sony. Are they actually going to stay on the map? Or is it going to be a situation where it is more or less a race to the top? You know, and I hate to say it, there's been a little bit of talk about whether or not Square Enix was going to be able to be there throughout the end of the PlayStation 4 cycle, or if they were going to start developing for other consoles if they're announced. Uh, Almost exclusively, though I do believe that they're going to stay with Sony for the most part, but who's to say? That can very well change. Uh, Square Enix hasn't been known to be completely loyal. They have jumped ship from Nintendo to Sony, and they can do it again from Sony to Nintendo if they really choose it. I know the Switch is doing phenomenal, but I don't recall exactly how many titles they have on there. Whereas Sony, who knows if they're actually going to release their PlayStation 5, okay? And that's why I named this video uh, Ramblings, because at times I know I'm going to not make a whole lot of sense. Ooh, that hurt. Punishment on that is pretty bad. Ow. Going in there for the block. And finish. Alright. Um, just kind of simple ramblings. I know there's a lot of stuff. I'm even pointing out to stuff like Blaze Blue, Cross Battle Attack. Yeah, got a little over halfway, half of the roster, and we're still getting more. But I do like playing with this team because it just seems kind of fun. In case anybody's wondering what exactly I'm doing here, I'm just playing as Ruby and Ragna against the CPU on hell difficulty. Surprisingly, I'm pretty predictable on how I play, but the CPUs are kind of tough. And you can't just like troll them. You can't spam them with the same moves. You kind of have to think outside the box. And combo into stuff whenever possible. Ow. Such a bullshit move. Just telling you right now. Bullshit. um, One thing that I think has been somewhat speculated is the next generation of consoles for the Xbox and the PlayStation, and I think everybody's kind of out of sync for the most part. But the Switch has been out for what, like about 2 years, I think. I could be mistaken. It's been a while, and it's definitely had an impact. But at the same time, I feel like there just aren't a whole lot of games for that system that really piqued my interest. And a lot of people would probably understand this. If you play RPGs, generally this is the thing that I run into is I just don't have a whole lot to play regarding consoles. And which is kind of sad when you really think about it. If I, as a player of games, cannot find something to play, that's bad. And that's generally what I run into. And some people are like, "Oh yeah, you should just go to PC because you'll just find almost everything that's better on it." And I'm just like, no, no, that's not how it works. I understand the PC does have a wide array, generally has more things that you can do, but here's the thing with PC gaming in general is things just don't work out the same way that you'd expect them to. Yes, PCs are pretty much universal, but the problem is that when you start getting into wanting to just buy a game and pop it in your system, and maybe you have to do a quick update or something like that, that's no problem. Okay, but I've ran into problems with playing games on PC. Sometimes I'll run into a game that's been out for a few years. Let's say it released in like 2011, and I can't even play it on my computer that I bought in 2013 because, it's not compatible for whatever reason. And which is kind of ridiculous when you really think about it. Like, should my system, why should my game not be compatible with my system at that point? It's not like you go out and buy a PlayStation 3 game and it's automatically not compatible with your PlayStation 3. It just never happens. Unless your PlayStation 3 is a piece of shit. Ooh, that was rough. Ooh. Uh, that's the other thing is, uh, let's say you have a older console. Let's say you have a Nintendo 64. Okay, if you bought a Nintendo 64 game, you are guaranteed that it will work in your damn system unless it was broken. Okay, that is the difference when I look at this kind of situation. One of the bigger things I like to say about PCs are that some games just won't run on your system. no matter how hard you try. Uh, and I and I had that issue. It's just like my system's not up to specs. And it's not because it's a cheap computer or anything like that, because yeah, it probably is a little bit. But at the same point, should I be ashamed of buying something that can't obviously do what I need it to do? Because that's kind of embarrassing. Wow, I'm getting my butt kicked here. Hides a beast. Hashtag hides a beast. Yeah, I'm dead. That was quick. Uh, but at the same note, I'm not going to buy a uh, new PC because I feel like it. I've already been burned by it quite a few times. I bought a uh, PC back in, I think it was like 2005, and the PC wasn't even a year old. It was a gaming PC. I thought it was great. Okay. A few years later, I tried to load up, I think it was like Final Fantasy 11 on it. And it was incompatible with Final Fantasy 11, except for that it could only run its minigame Triple Triad, which I thought was kind of ridiculous because I was like, but why? Why couldn't it only do this? And it said graphic capabilities just weren't possible. And that's generally what I run into a lot when I buy games or try games. Is every PC I seem to get seems to be incompatible with everything else I want to play. And so I run into this quite a bit. Uh, and having a PC that just does not, which is not compatible at all, just pisses me off. Wow, that was bad. So I'm not going to go into the whole PC versus console any further because I feel like some people do get kind of hurt about that. But at the same time, I don't feel the need to have to buy a PC and basically have it become worthless. Because I'll use a different example real quick, and that is my PC that I bought in 2005 sits in a storage unit because I don't know what to do with it. Okay? My PC that I bought in 2013, which is now 5 years old, I still use. And it is on its deathbed right now because there's nothing to play on it. There's nothing to do on those things, uh, game wise, because I can't play like really any games unless there's something like old fashioned ROMs for like the PlayStation 1 or something. Which is kind of really ridiculous if you ask me. Wow. Uh, at the same note, if I have a PS2, I could still play games. I have a PlayStation 3 that I got in. God, what year was that? 2011, I think? No, maybe it was 2012. I don't really remember a whole lot, like when I got it. So, whoa. Wow. I just got my ass kicked. But yeah, it's just, yeah, PS3 works fine. Not sluggish. I still use it from time to time. More so than my computer that I got in 2005. So, eh, we'll see. I mean, I even have a Wii now that I use from time to time. Mainly when I'm dealing with with relatives, or if I get bored. Eventually, I want to get a video capture card for it. Same thing with my PS3, but the reason why I just have not is because it just I just don't have the money to do so. Okay, time to back off. So, I don't know if you can hear the clicking of my buttons. I am a very fervent player when it comes to a fighting game. I don't take lightly to corners, and I definitely play with my whole heart in it. Alright. So, that being said, going back to E3 though, I know there are other uh, announcements and press conferences coming. I know we got some of them ahead of time. We got Bethesda announcing Fallout 76. I believe that's what it was. I don't know how I feel about it. I'm not a general fan of Bethesda. Uh, I did play a little bit of, I think it was Oblivion and Skyrim, and I just couldn't get into them. I also tried some Fallout 3, and I don't know if anybody's ever looked at my trophy list, but oh my god, they are crazy. The trophies I have are basically the introductory ones, and then one in particular that pretty much sealed the deal for me, which was blow up Megaton. So I blew up Megaton, and then I pretty much quit the game. I thought being evil was kind of boring, and I didn't really want to play it any further. And I know some people are in my viewership are probably going to be like, but you didn't even experience it. Yeah, I know. That was because I wasn't really interested in the game. Really? Really? Wow. Such a dick move. Uh, so, just I just can't get into those games. And I've played smaller versions of stuff. I know some people who've watched my videos, you've seen me play stuff like Neverwinter. Neverwinter is a bit more condensed, more driven. They tell you where to go and what you're supposed to be doing there. Whereas Fallout and the Elder Scrolls games, they don't really tell you where to go. And I like that leadership a little bit. Like, I like freedom, but I also like to be driven where to go. That way I know where basically to, I don't know, where to go and where not to go. Because I don't know if you've ever seen anyone, or maybe you have played yourself, Final Fantasy 1. If you don't have direction, you can get toasted super quick in those games. Wow. This corner. Oops, I missed. So, one of the other things I want to point out real quick, though, is that's Bethesda. I want to talk a little bit about EA. I'm not a fan of EA in the slightest bit. I don't really like their games, so that's generally why I avoid them like the fucking plague. And yes, I did use the F bomb because I don't like their business transactions, and I understand there are plenty of games out there where there are microtransactions to kind of keep you engaged and keep going and everything, but you can't hide content behind paywalls because it gets ridiculous. And some people might argue that wasn't that what Final Fantasy 10-2 or not 10-2 13-2 was all about? And I'd be like, yeah, probably, yeah. But at the same time, loot boxes is not where it's at. Okay, because the moment you start using loot boxes to basically get your player base to keep playing, it's kind of ridiculous. And that's also the reason why I have an issue with uh, wow, that block wow, I can't even move. That's freaking crazy. Wow, close, so close. Um, let's see, who else was there running? Microsoft, I don't really care about because I don't play games on Windows through the Windows Store, and I don't run. I don't even own an Xbox. Simply because I've never agreed with that company's policy with video games, and I generally think their controllers just suck. Honestly, uh, it's very confusing for anybody who's a regular Nintendo fan, mainly because you have buttons that are backwards. So the A and the B are switched, and the X and Y are switched. So it feels really weird going back and forth between the two. Uh, the PlayStation controller and the Nintendo controller are enough different that we don't really have that many issues with it. Or at least I don't, anyway. Wow, I'm getting my ass kicked again. So, one of the other things I want to mention real quick is the reluctance that I have for some of these damn things. Wow. Got him right in the face. Yeah, another thing I want to mention, because I say reluctance, because I know there's other press releases like Nintendo. They're good. They generally do a good job. Uh, but the reason why I don't play Nintendo is they generally don't have games I want to play on them, or they get them too late. Not really for the Vita, for Sony. So when they announced that they were gonna end making Vita games, like physical Vita games for the U.S., I was kind of happy because I was getting tired of situations where, yeah, we're gonna release this game on the PlayStation main console, and then lo and behold, here like a few months later, we're gonna go ahead, or even a year later, we're gonna go ahead and release it again for the console or the handheld for a reduced price with more content, and we're also going to make sure that you're going to feel like you need to double dip in your purchasing. And it got to the point where I was just like, what the hell is the point of owning this if all you're going to do is release a better version of the game I'm playing here in a year? That'd be like if you always found out that your game was going to be released for uh, like on PC or something, and they were always going to have the best stuff, and they could enjoy it to its fullest. The reason why I have this issue is I have to point my finger at NIS America because, and NIS as a company, mainly because what happened was I would buy one of their games, and the amount of DLC for that game would exceed the price of the full game. I think one time I looked at it, it was $110 in DLC. And then, get this, the game itself was $60 on release date. Generally didn't drop in price for a while. And I was generally upset. Now, imagine buying that and then immediately, and I do mean pretty much immediately after about a year, the following scenario happens. We're re-releasing it for a handheld. Not just that, we're going to release it for $40, and we're going to include all of that $100 worth of stuff for free. And first thing you're like, oh, maybe because they sold so much and everything, and the rest of the stuff should have gone down. No, the DLC for the oh, wow. For the console version, not the handheld version, the console version, prices for that DLC never went down. Okay? I think there was one instance where they decided to consolidate and sell the entire DLC package for $50. Okay? Now, I'm going to say this once again. If you're selling your DLC for more than it is for a goddamn port with all of the DLC, which one do you think people are going to buy? Well, the handheld version. Okay, great. Except for, guess what? Now the game's not even really available for purchase on the PlayStation Store, so people have to find a physical release for the damn game. Or they have to play it on PlayStation, what is that service called? View? Where you can buy or have streaming games. So, I thought that was really funny because I was just like, I have a game, and now it no longer has. It no longer is available in this select area because the company says no. So, to this day, I do want to buy DLC. That's the thing. I want to buy this DLC. But with it being over $100, it's unacceptable. Okay? And yes, you can go out and buy a what do you call it? Kind of like a collector's edition or a special edition that you get for like buying games. Like you see it a lot with Bethesda where they'll have like their special edition or whatever, and it'll be like a year or two. It's like basically they include all the DLC, but it's for the console. Okay, you don't even get that option for this company because they just don't do it. They don't care. They're more about get in, get out, basically get money. And I see where it comes from, which is really sad when you have to say this company has issues because they're greedy. Okay, that attack is so weak. The other thing to consider when I talk about this is there are tons of other companies that are going to be showing off games at E3, which is the main reason why I'm talking about this. Again, I'm rambling like a blabbering idiot. Really? Yeah, go figure. But Oops, I'm squeaking. Uh, Trying to think who else is doing stuff. Ubisoft. This is one thing I do want to touch point with. Ubisoft did kind of make a comment. I know it's kind of an off comment whenever a company says something like this, but claiming that uh, video gaming is going to go the way of away from console gaming and or even owning games, which I can kind of understand. The idea behind that is that you're concerned about your product and your product's future as well as the way video game trends are going. I am a firm believer that video games can go a lot of different ways. I love it how that works. Yeah, that's what I thought. So, uh, they said something along the lines of, I guess, wanting to go to cloud based streaming games. And I can understand that, especially with the advent of the PlayStation View and other things where it's like, yeah, you pay a set monthly fee, and that's how you get your games. You know, I'm familiar with this design. I remember how it used to work when another company used to do this. I don't recommend it, mainly because there was a lot of complaints about how it functioned and how reliable it was. The company that I'm thinking of that it reminds me of is good old Sega with the Sega channel back in the day. I don't know if any of you younger fans or listeners are paying attention to this, but yeah, it's a big deal when you're dealing with a company. Uh, was that they put games up there, they rotated them out, and so forth, and you had to have a internet connection and it would just be brought to it. And it was really strange because it was at the time before the internet really took off. The other thing is that very few people really liked it because there were complaints about outages and so forth. Because if the PlayStation Network goes down for whatever reason under this whole idea of PlayStation View, there's a possibility that you won't even be able to play your games at all. And we've already seen some of this when it comes down to Xbox's policies with their games always needing to be online. Like Forza. You know, Imagine buying Forza and not being able to play. It's kind of embarrassing, really. A lot of developers probably don't like the idea of that, mainly because, oh wow, they just kind of lose all their stuff because it's just ridiculous on how easy it is to just kind of lose your company or your service because okay, this is getting ridiculous. I'm going in for the kill. So we'll see how well it works. Okay, I I'm not sure if it's actually a good thing. Some people have been like, oh yeah, uh, internet connection speeds are getting better. I know me personally, I have a pretty good connection, but I've also been in areas that are very rural, or even in bigger cities where they just have not gotten around to some of the stuff that is available in their area. I remember being on the phone a while back and realizing that internet connections aren't always available in my area because the demand's not very high. I love that excuse for anything. It's not in your area because the demand for a faster connection is not feasible. Oops, I totally messed that up. Okay, time to switch it. Bye, Ruby. My mistake. So, one of the big things I want to state about this, though, is I am a individual who understands that internet outages happen, that networks go down for companies like PlayStation, Xbox Live, and Nintendo. I'm also well aware that other issues can occur, which are you might go somewhere where these services are not available. You might go somewhere where you just cannot get availability. And if you do not have access to those two things in concurrence, it fails. Okay? Whereas, I'm just going to point this out, right now as it sits, you can go out, buy a game, and put it in your system, and you generally will be able to play it without any requirement of needing the internet, needing the PlayStation Network. Like, I have someone in my family who's playing World of Final Fantasy, and you don't need an internet connection to play that game. You don't need a PlayStation Network account or anything. You don't need anything to play that game other than the disc, unless you have bought it from the PlayStation Network. And then, yes, you need to have all of that stuff. Okay, that was a little bit overkill. I tried to jump over it. So, so that's another thing that needs to be said about Ubisoft. I don't know what else they're actually developing and for which company they're trying to design for. So, I don't even remember what games they're even announcing. I think there was a big joke that I was talking to somebody, and I was like, yeah, Halo 7 is coming out, and Master Chief is finally making a big appearance. He's taking off his helmet, and they're like, oh my god, this is going to be awesome. I was like, I can't believe you're even believing this, because when did Halo 6 come out? And they're like, oh, I don't know. I was like, you haven't been keeping up on your games at all. Like, oh, it's like if you told somebody, oh yeah, Black Ops 6 was coming out. Well, Black Ops 4 was just announced, so yeah, it's pretty funny. Um, One of the big things is that I really don't want to see this year is I don't want to see any more announcements for Battle Royale games. I'm so sick of them. And I know some people are like, oh, gotta go with the trends. They're going to be the hottest things. I am so sick of hearing about them. I've seen way too many people make such a big deal about it. And in my line of work, I freaking hate uh, freaking Fortnite. It is most, how do I put it? Annoying and repetitive game out there because people all have been talking about it like nonstop. And generally, I wouldn't have an issue with it. But the thing is, like, it has become a problem in the workforce because that's all that people ever talk about. And I know some people are like, oh, you're just complaining, and it's really not like that. You have no idea what I do, okay? It is a big, big, big problem, okay? To the point where if you don't watch people close enough at your work, you'll sometimes have people at work playing this damn thing even on their phones. Okay? it's become a big issue. And when you have people who aren't doing their work because of it, it's even a bigger issue. I like to see people actually doing their work. Okay, I want them to be doing it, and I cannot count the number of times where I've talked to people like my roommate, where they have basically talked and talked and talked about this damn game. I'm so sick of hearing it because it's literally the only thing that people talk about anymore. Okay, I'm hoping that it goes under the radar, kind of like, you know, some of the other games that are out there. Because I know for a while, people talked about Call of Duty all the time. And now nobody even talks about it because, who knows? You know, maybe because there's just too many other interesting games out there. And now everyone's trying to copy the Fortnite to the point where it's pretty much gone into an oblivion. Wow, right off the bat. Right into it. And right into it. Aw. Didn't have enough to do it a third time. I'm trying to think else who else has a press conference. Man, it's gonna bug me for a while. So much so, I almost have to look it up. Because I know there's another one that I'm just missing completely. Give me a moment. I'm pretty sure. I'll know it here in a moment. It's big. It's on the tip of my tongue. No, I think that's about it. Wow. I thought for sure there was another one. But I'm hoping that we get some really good highlights over what's going to be big at E3. And me, I know I went on a lot of big tangents and ramblings in this video. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm a bit of a Sony fanboy, but at the same time, I don't buy everything Sony puts out. I kind of stick with some companies, play what I want. If it looks interesting, I'll play it. If I have high hopes in something that somebody's selling, I'll buy it. And I'll be honest with you, I don't buy that many games. I wish I did. I play a lot. I mean, I've been pretty much stuck playing Neverwinter, but many people have seen me play stuff like Final Fantasy and, you know, Blaze Blue, and I try out different things. I even played like some Digimon Cyber Sleuth just to kind of be a little bit different outside of my norm. Oh, that was kind of cool. I'm dead. Okay. So, and I like being a bit of a fanboy. It's fine. It has its ups and downs, but at the same time, there are still games I want to play on this platform, the PlayStation 4, and having it go away simply because it's its time uh, is hardly acceptable. I mean, considering that I still play games on the PlayStation 3, not so much the PlayStation 2 anymore. I used to way back when. Same with the PlayStation 1. Sometimes I'll like load up a game and play it, but the main reason why I don't is because of just accessibility. I don't have the games anymore, or I got rid of them to a certain other. Man, I'm sucking so bad this round. Everybody likes to see me get whooped, right? I only got some hits in. Geesh. That cancel is unbelievable. Got him. All right. So, other things to make note of, though, is as much as I claim that I'm pretty unbiased about this stuff, I am totally biased. Okay, and I'm allowed to be because everybody's biased in their own way to towards or against certain video games, and I am generally I like playing fighting games. I like playing RPGs. I like playing a variety of different games, especially like strategy RPGs. I don't know if anybody's seen me play Disgaea, but I'm pretty ruthless when it comes to those games, though I don't always do every challenge in them because I just can't. I usually can't take down like the final baddie of the entire game. Like I don't know if anybody's actually faced Val, but I don't have a really good track record with Val. It's a little bit different of a combo. Yeah, and I love how the timing for those grabs is just ridiculous. Like CPUs can grab you like crazy. And that move, oh my god. I barely even hit him. So, uh, one other thing I will make note of here is you've seen me playing this game a little bit here and there. I do it to kind of relieve some stress, vent a little bit. I don't really talk to a whole lot of people when I do this. And I do this a lot with a lot of games where I'll just sit here and play a game because I feel like I want to. Uh, Not necessarily because I'm bored or anything, but just because I like getting the free demos, games, betas, so forth. And if I can, I will uh, do everything in my power to just kind of keep it going. Like I got some demos on like the PlayStation 3 that sometimes I'll just load up and play just for the hell of it. Not because they're things I would never buy, but because they're more like things I think that are innovative, interesting, and the like. And if I honestly had a ton of money, I might just buy them because they're kind of fun games. But I have my priorities. I believe like this year, depending on what's been announced and what kind of sales are out there, I'm probably gonna stick with what's already been announced, unless we get some rather big announcement from like Square Enix for a uh, World of Final Fantasy 2 or a another big title. I probably won't be buying anything from Square Enix, and unless it's something that's on sale that's already been released. I do like to buy their classics from time to time, but not everybody has the luxury of buying those. Otherwise, I was thinking about getting Blaze Blue Cross Battle Tag, but that just all depends on what is actually announced. Uh, Kingdom Hearts 3 is still a ways off, so I'm probably not going to wait around for that to be released, even though I have pretty much every other Kingdom Hearts game ever released, uh, and I have beaten them, and I've cleared. And what I mean by cleared, I mean like 100%, like got a platinum trophy or whatever in most of those games. Uh, I didn't beat the secret boss in 358 over 2 days on the DS. I didn't complete Recoded because I was having issues with the 2D aspect of it on the DS. And I didn't really complete the platinums for I'm I'm gonna say Dream Drop Distance on the PlayStation 3, I think it was. No, no, it was PlayStation 4. I had to really think about it. It's part of 2.8. Yeah, the entire 2.8 game, I just didn't bother getting a platinum, mainly because that game is freaking hard. Okay, I'm not gonna lie. I decided to put it on like the hardest difficulty uh, for point two, and some of the stuff is just ridiculously absurd. And then there's also the uh, Dream Drop Distance where I just didn't put it on the hardest difficulty. I decided to put it on the easiest difficulty, thinking, oh yeah, there's no reason for me to play it on a hard difficulty until it started talking about uh, maxing out all the skills and saying, well, you can't get this trophy unless you're playing on the hardest difficulty because the no experience one is only available on the hardest difficulty and it counts for that trophy. So you're SOL if you do not uh, play on the hardest difficulty from the get go. So I was hoping I wouldn't have to, but apparently I had to. So I just didn't bother. Plus, did not want to deal with uh, doing their mini game where you battle against other monsters and you're racing your own monsters. I think that concept is kind of dumb when it comes to Kingdom Hearts, and unless it's fully integrated in the game, I don't want it in my games. I saw the same concept being thrown around in like Chrono Trigger for the DS. I thought that was a really dumb concept because why would I want to take my monsters and fight other people's monsters? Okay? It's not how that game is played. It's not like playing something like Pokemon or World of Final Fantasy where you do it all the time. It's like you're doing practice battles throughout the entire game. Okay? It's not some side thing that's just kind of thrown in later on. And that's why I was like, nope, not for me. And I'm trying to remember what that damn game's called. I think it's something Rush. I can't remember it. Flick Rush, maybe. If I'm wrong, go ahead and comment in the comment section. I am so horrible with names for mini games. I just don't bother with those. Like I either go all for it or I don't. And for that game, I was just like, I want nothing to do with it. Mainly because it didn't make a whole lot of sense. It kind of reminded me a little bit of unresponsive controls and mixing in with a poor tutorial like that of trying to explain the junction system in Final Fantasy VIII. That was weird. So, just a heads up, that is something that I am really bugged about. Okay, when I think about those games. And I'm hoping Kingdom Hearts 3 will be a lot better. I'm hoping it finally expands on some much needed answers for that game franchise. um, and I'm hoping that we get a lot of stuff. I'm kind of hoping that we might get, I don't know, a spin-off series or something related to Type 0 because that was a nifty game. I really did enjoy that. But I'm also hoping for an announcement. I know this is very unlikely because Nippon Ichi Software likes to make their announcements in late July, but uh, Disgaea 6 or a spin-off game related to the Disgaea series, like, I don't know, Phantom Brave 2 or Makai Kingdom 2 or something along the lines, or La Pachelle Tactics 2 or trying to think. There's a few others. Soul Nomad and World Eaters was a good spin-off, but not really connected. But it was a fun game. Uh, Heard a little bit of mention about Mackay Wars, but no solid idea of if that will be a thing or not. So we will just have to wait and see. Uh, and usually they don't make an appearance at E3, but that could always change. But then again, I did have a conversation with a local shop owner that sells video games, and he kind of explained that Nippon Ichi software games are very much a niche market, and so are basically every Japanese fighting game that is not like of the big ones. Okay, and the big ones are typically like Street Fighter, Dead or Alive, and uh, Smash. If you consider Smash Brothers a big fighting game, as well as Tekken. Okay, not saying Tekken's not a fighting game. I know it totally is. So before somebody tries to roast me, it is. And I do enjoy those games from time to time, but there are also what an entire category known as like the anime fighters, which is does include Blaze Blue, Guilty Gear, Under Night in Birth, your anime fighters like I'm trying to think some of the other titles that are out there, like Dengeki Bunko Fighting Climax, uh, which if you have not played, I totally recommend it. It's kind of fun. I played on the PlayStation 3. Unfortunately, can't find any opponents for that game online. Nobody's really playing it. Maybe because, I don't know, the supply for that game is so atrociously bad that I finally caved and bought one online because I could not find one in a goddamn store for more than frickin' 2 years. Yeah, that's a problem, okay? And it pissed me off, okay? I went to multiple GameStops, multiple offhand stores just looking for the damn thing. Like I went to the Mall of America and went to all their GameStops, which I think it was only two at the time. And I said, okay, looking for this game. Can you find it? They're like, well, we kind of have one on the the Vita. I was like, no, I want it for PlayStation 3. Oh, okay. We don't have it. Does the other store in the Mall of America have it? No. Okay. Do any stores within 100 miles have it? No. Okay. Thanks. Marched my sorry butt back home, which was uh, further south. Same thing. Same questions, same responses. No one had it. Went to a few other major cities, hundreds of miles away. Again, no. Moved to another major city. Again, no. It is really ridiculous on how bad this is. Okay, when you're looking for a game and you cannot simply find it in a store, isn't that kind of ridiculous? Oh God, I'm starting to cough. But it gets kind of ridiculous when you're trying to uh, find something to play, and some people are like, "Oh, you just have to be more, I don't know, willing to try out other things." Oh yeah, I've tried a bunch of games. I played a bunch of games. You know, that's why when you look at my PlayStation profile, I have like 21 platinum trophies. Okay, which is kind of okay, I guess. But at the same time, I try my best. Okay, I try to play the games I like and only get platinum trophies for games I kind of like. There are a few on my list that I could care less about, it, mainly because I play it with other people. But some people are like, "Oh, you just like easy games. You just like playing those what do you call it? Those weeaboo games." And I'm just like, "Dude, do you have a platinum on Dark Souls?" They're like, no. I was like, "That's a Japanese game." "Oh, really?" Yeah, that game's hard. Yeah. So I have a platinum for Dark Souls and Demon Souls. What do you have? Nada? Okay, I don't want to hear it. Okay. I play games that take a lot of time. Disgaea, Final Fantasy, and a few others here and there. Like Kingdom Hearts, where Kingdom Hearts 1, I had to go through the game, get this, 3 times. I had to go through Chain of Memories, 3 times as Riku, 3 times as Sora. Okay, that's to get platinums for those games. Okay, then try taking something like Birth by Sleep. You have to go through it with Aqua, Terra, and Ventus. Very ridiculous, very repetitive. So you're starting to get to the point where you feel like you're playing through the same game over and over again. And mind you, I've already played through Kingdom Hearts 1 once on the PS2, and then I did it again when it released on the PlayStation 3 with a relative. So we did that, and here I went and did it another 3 times. Now imagine me when I got to Chain of Memories and I was like, hey, yeah, I did it one playthrough with Sora, one playthrough with Riku on somebody else's profile, and then did it another 3 times for each of the characters. You can kind of see how I'm just like, I don't really want to play through the game yet again. And so whenever we get a new Kingdom Hearts, and it's like, oh, we got the same world, same story, same stuff, I will just be pissed off again because all I'm doing is playing through the same shit over and over and over. Okay? And that's why I'm so happy that we're finally getting Kingdom Hearts 3. Finally. Okay? I do play a bit of the mobile game, Union Cross, but that is more like a time sink rather than anything, and I know the service won't be up for that game forever. On another side note, though, with that is anybody who is somewhat lost on the entirety of what all's going on and why we should even care about any games that aren't part of the main series of Kingdom Hearts is if you get the games, I'm going to point these out really quickly. If you get the games of Kingdom Hearts 1.5, 2.5, and 2.8, and you play all the stuff that's on them, you will, for the most part, get the story. There are some things that you will not, and that's understandable. But one of the big things that, if you're already familiar with all of that stuff, if you've already played all of the, you know, PS2 games, okay, that were released back in the day, 1.5 has 358 over 2 days as a cinematic sequence, okay? Which means you don't really have to battle anything. It's not hard. You just sit there and watch for like a couple of hours, okay? You and you also have to read, mind you. If you're looking for more fulfillment and you're not wanting to shell out the money for that, buy 358. Yeah, 358 over 2 days on the DS. It's definitely better, in my opinion. Harder, but better. It gives you more of an in-depth story because I didn't quite understand it when I looked at the cutscenes on the PS3 when they had this compilation. I was like, what? Okay, that was. I guess I was a little sad. But then when I actually played the game, I was like, man, what the hell? Why didn't they include all of that? That didn't make a whole lot of sense when I looked at it on the PS3. This is way deeper. Okay. Uh, Kingdom Hearts 2.5, we get Kingdom Hearts 2 with Birth by Sleep and scenes from Recoded. Okay. Recoded, I get the idea that you're probably better off just watching the scenes. I honestly don't even want to dick around with the game. Okay, feels weird and annoying, and I'd rather not. Uh, Kingdom Hearts 2.5 or 2, should I say? Uh, is interesting. I'll get back to that in a moment. But Birth by Sleep, if you've already played it on the PSP, you should be fine. Uh, but again, I say 2.5 is definitely worth a buy simply because of everything else that's in it. And this is going to go back to Kingdom Hearts 1 and Kingdom Hearts 2 on the PS3 and PS4, is that they are the final mix versions, so they try to include stuff that's more inclusive and they give you more bonus bosses to fulfill the story a bit better. That being said, the bosses are kind of ridiculously hard. Just be prepared for that. Okay, their new challenges are kind of tougher, um, and it definitely takes a lot of time getting through some of the content. There's an entirely like new like dungeon, as I would call it, in Kingdom Hearts 2 that I will be honest with you, I was probably under leveled a little bit, but I was walking into, and there was a part of it leading up to the final area, and there's a checkpoint, and I sat there at that checkpoint trying to get through it for I think it was like 4 hours straight. So just be aware that the game is definitely still challenging, even with regular enemies, not just bosses. And they definitely have the most interesting bonus bosses in the entire series, mainly because you get to fight so many different bonus bosses, and they are not a walk in the park. I wish they were. Uh, Same thing with Birth by Sleep. There are tons of bonus bosses in there, but I think they were in the original, so don't worry about it too much. Um, Whereas Kingdom Hearts 2 has, I'm trying to think, Lingering Will and God, which Lingering Will is definitely a challenge. He has no attack patterns or anything else. You can fight additional members of Organization 13 that you weren't able to during the main game, and some that you were able to. Uh, yeah, it's really, really tricky stuff. Um, so I don't recommend it unless you're really prepared. So, and I mean, you get to fight people like Axel, you know, which, yeah, have fun with that. But that's Kingdom Hearts in a nutshell. I really do enjoy the series. Uh, and I don't know about Union Cross. Like, if you're wanting to know what happens in that, go play 2.8. You can just watch the scenes and kind of get the gist of it for the most part because it's all kind of intertangled. And then point two is kind of important, kind of puts things together a little bit. And then Dream Drop Distance, which is a sequel to Kingdom Hearts 2, and it is kind of a big deal. I'm going to be honest with you, the two things that are very important are the point 2 and Dream Drop Distance if you've already played Kingdom Hearts 2. Okay, if you played all the other ones and you have not gotten your hands on to 2.8, definitely take a look at it. I'm not going to say go out and spend $60 for the game and you know uh, possibly go broke over it. I'm telling you, if you know somebody with it, borrow it. If you uh, can rent it, I know renting is still kind of a thing here and there. Rent it, or if you can find a used copy for kind of cheap, like somebody got it, they played it, they didn't want to play it any longer. Uh, Take a look at it, as long as it's not too much. You know, I am one of those people who just like looks at it and it's like, should you really be paying full price for the game? And I'll be honest with you, I didn't pay full price for the game. Somebody else paid for it, but still very well worth it. Just like playing any other game, like if it is actually worth your time and money, that's when you buy it. And I really do like buying games. It's just that I don't always buy my games. So sometimes other people buy them for me out of gratitude or the like. Um, Sometimes I do things for them. You know, sometimes I buy them things. So it just kind of all works out in the end. Uh, I am really kind of hoping for Kingdom Hearts 3 to be really inclusive. I do have a lot of speculations on what I want to see in the games, though not everybody is going to think of it about the same way. I want certain characters to return, others not so much, and I don't know. Maybe I just have a lot of soft spots for some of the characters, and some people are like, nope, you're not going to get what you want. They're dead, they're dead, they're dead. And then, lo and behold, watching the trailers for Kingdom Hearts 3, we see some of the characters that we thought were dead. They're actually alive. What the fuck? So, yes. One of the last things I do want to mention about E3 is the craziness of the scheduling. Okay? And maybe this should be a heads up to anybody who's part of the E3 staff or can criticize on this. And that is, if you're going to show everything before E3 and not actually show anything during your damn press releases that are actually relevant to your major and core fan base, don't fucking do it. Don't do it before the fucking goddamn thing, because the press release is when most people are tuning in. I don't want to hear about a goddamn game releasing at, 7 to 9 p.m. Central Standard Time on a frickin' Saturday evening, almost 2 days, well, a day and a half before the goddamn press release. Okay? Unforgivable, bullshit, and I'm not happy. So, I understand you want to get it out there to get people hyped and everything, but you didn't have to. Okay? You can keep your goddamn secrets until damn E3, because if you reveal all your secrets before your goddamn press release, you're not going to have anything good. Nobody's going to even care. Everyone's going to laugh at you, and nobody's going to fucking care at all about your goddamn company. What they're going to say is, oh, you revealed everything. Why should I ever fucking tune in? And my answer is, well, you only have yourselves to blame. Okay? I need to wrap this up. This video is going on too goddamn long. Not my intention. I was thinking like a 5, maybe 10 minute video, and I feel like I've been talking and talking and talking. Probably been on here for like, what, half an hour, an hour? Frick. Damn it. And I keep on dropping expletives. It's really late here at the moment. I'm guessing 2 or 3 a.m. Oh, gee. And on top of that, I'm hoping that we finally do get something good. Something exciting. Not PS5. Okay? And not anything like a next Nintendo thing or anything like that. But I'm hoping that we get something neat. Okay? I'm hoping we get something kind of exciting, something kind of new, something I can get behind, something that doesn't have a 10-year, you know, production or development time. Talking about Final Fantasy 15 a little bit, giving them a hard time. Okay? And the funny thing about that whole thing is they keep pushing out content for that thing. It's like they worked on it 10 years, and like I feel like they procrastinated it much like a student did, like a college student in particular did. And when you told them, okay, you've been at this for long enough, turn it in, whatever you got, and they're like, oh, I got this. And then you're like, all right, great, this is okay. And they're like, oh, wait. I got 2 more pages. And you're just like, 2 more pages? Oh, yeah, I have 2 more pages to this paper that I'm going to turn in. Okay. When are you going to turn in? 4 days. Okay, fine. And then they're getting ready to hand it to you in those 4 days, and they're like, oh, wait. I have another 8 pages back here. And you're just like, so how many you got? And they're like, oh, I got another, like, 2 over here, another 1, another 1.5, another 2. I think the 12 page is over there, but you're not getting that for like a month. Or should I say 6 months? And you're just sitting there, like, why the fuck didn't you give it to me all at once? It would have made it more concise, more enjoyable. And they're just like, because I didn't want to. Sorry. Need more time to work on it. Sorry. And I'm just over here thinking, that's what Square Enix sounds like to me. They sound like somebody who came in unprepared, did something incomplete, and then when they got some criticism on it, they're like, we'll go back and fix it, and it'll all be joyous. Or we're gonna add this other stuff. It's gonna be great. And I'm over here. I'm like, uh, you do realize that you just can't do that. And they're like, really? That's all I could. And I'm over here. Oh, I wish I could always do that. I wish I could always tell people, oh yeah, I'll do the rest later. No, that doesn't freaking work, and it pisses off a lot of people. Just like microtransactions piss off a lot of people. Loot boxes piss off a lot of people. And here's the thing. If everybody just stopped buying them, they would go away. But unfortunately, that would also mean that the price of video games stock prices will be going up. And I mean the base price of games, not the actual stock like Dow Jones or anything like that, market stock. I'm talking about actual initial price of the game. So right now, majority of games are $50, or sorry, $60, with some at 50 or even 40. I know Nintendo releases a lot of their stuff at 40 or 50. PlayStation typically releases at 60. Uh, there are some exceptions. I know that Blaze Blue Cross Battle Tag is 50, but you can also like get the other 20 characters for like another $20. So, which it's their way of making up the cost, in which case they could have released their game for $70, but they didn't. They could have released everything together, but they didn't. And to be honest, video games should be way more expensive than what they are. So, and some people don't agree with that. And I'm over here and it's like, with as long as they take to actually make versus the amount of sales that they get, they should most definitely be more expensive. Because if you think about it, okay, let's say you're expecting to sell 10 million copies of a game, okay? 10 million, okay? You have to figure out how much it's going to cost to recoup your losses, okay? Well, let's say the game takes 5 years, 5 years of development, okay? The amount of people that are working on your staff is probably going to be, if you have a development type that long, probably going to be about 500 people, okay? Which is pretty good, I guess. Might be a little bit less. Let's say it's only 100 people. We'll be really gracious with this. 100 people working on a project for 5 years, okay? We can't let them starve. We can't let them die. So let's say we're going to pay them a reasonable living wage of, I don't know, let's say we break it down and it's like $10 an hour, okay? $10 an hour for, let's say we give them a 2 week vacation, 50 weeks out of the year, okay? I mean, that seems pretty reasonable, right? Wow. Okay, so I'm pulling up a calculator because it's so much easier. 100 people times, what did we say? Sorry, $10 an hour times 50 weeks. And that's assuming you're working on the game 40 hours a week. Okay? So that means it's going to cost you $2 million just in employee salaries. Okay? That's not counting anything else. Okay? So, assuming that you outsource any of the materials, let's say the engine costs so much and you have to outsource some of the other things, and it's going to cost you probably another like million. Okay, so you're spending $3 million. Okay, you need to make a profit on the game, and that doesn't include stuff like marketing or promotions or anything else like that because people have to know about your game even existing. Okay, and it can get very, very pricey. If you want to ad on TV, that's a lot. If you want ads on internet, you need money for that. Okay, for all of it, especially here in the United States. So you're looking at a grand total of, well, close to $5 million at least. Okay, and you're expecting to sell 10 million copies. So that means you need to sell quite a bit. Okay, just to break even, you have to sell about, I'm going to say, I mean, even if you sell a million copies, okay, at $60 a pop, you're getting 60 million back, but that's before everything else, okay? Mind you, other parts of the industry take money too. If your game has voice acting, they cost money, a lot of money, okay? If your game has any online selling, that means if they're on the PlayStation Network, they cost money to be posted up there for sale. And I believe Sony gets a cut. If you're selling it through a retailer, like I don't know, GameStop, Walmart, whatever, they also take a cut because they don't sell stuff just simply because you know they're not going to make a market. They're not going to make money. They have to sell it to make money. Okay, and that's why a lot of times it's like they will buy the games for a fraction of the price. I've heard of instances where they will buy the games up for $10, $20, okay, or even half price, okay. So right then and there, let's say you do sell it, and it's like, oh yeah, they're gonna pay $20, okay, for your game. That's $20. That means it's significantly lower. So you have a million copies of the game times $20. That's $20 million. Okay. Now they're siphoning off your other stuff. You have to pay your voice actresses and voice actors and additional stuff, and it gets really complex. And you finally get down to it, and when it was actually broken down, is that video games should be significantly more than what they are. It's way more than what they are right now. So I would say probably at least $90. And the question is, would you buy a game for $90? And my answer is yes. Okay. And I say that very strictly because I've spent $80 on a game before. Okay. I didn't really think much of it. And I hate to break it to you, I can now sell that game for a whole whopping $5. I am serious. Okay, I bought like a special edition of a game. It's been drilled into the ground. Remember how I was talking about Nippon Ichi Software earlier? Yeah, that's why. So, I bought one of their games. I think it was like Disgaea 4. And the game now goes for a whole whopping $5. Maybe a little bit more, not much. It's not even $10. And the reason there's a few reasons. One, uh, there wasn't a limited supply. Two, it was re-released for the Vita with all the DLC content. And three, they re-released it as a triple pack on the PS3 with Disgaea 3 and Disgaea D2. Sounds a little annoying, right? It definitely is. So, not so thrilled about that. Then, there was the problem with, you know, people just not really playing them because it's a niche market, and the demand just wasn't up because people who basically all wanted it had it. So now the entire price of the game for resale value had plummeted down below $10, which is kind of ridiculous. Mind you, that triple pack was $40. $40 for 3 games on the PS3. Brand new. Release day. Pretty awesome. But at the same time, I did not buy it because I already owned all 3 games. Go freaking figure. In addition to that, didn't have the Vita copy, didn't really care for the Vita copy, just didn't want to go there. So I was just kind of looking out there to see how much things were. The other thing is like if you're ever wanting to sell your games, just be aware that the more that they print of it, the less that it's actually going to be worth, unless you're dealing with something that's always going to be popular, aka Pokemon games. Pokemon games, for whatever reason, retain their value like crazy, and sometimes even go up in value. Okay, just a heads up, it takes a long time for them to go up in value. Okay, I'm talking like 15 years to start going up in value. Generally, I think first and second generation are the most expensive at the moment. I don't know if fourth generation will ever catch up or third generation. I think for the most part, the classics will always be the classics until something else comes out. So, uh, just kind of keep that in mind when you're deciding on making any future game purchases, because I do know people who have bought games thinking that they were collectible and going to go up in price, and they just never did. Okay, and then there are others that they're like they bought and they did go up in value, just not as quickly as they expected. People that I know that have bought classic games like the Dot Hack games for the PS2, uh, they got all 4 of them, and like the original 4 with cases, DVDs, instruction manuals, everything, pretty much practically brand new, and not a scratch on them. Pretty awesome that they got them, and they just sit on them. They're just sitting on a shelf. They don't do anything with them. Uh, some of those games have gone up, which is really nice. Some of them did not, and I understand that. And buying big collector's editions for things, just, you can get burned really quickly. So the other thing to keep in mind with that, though, also is E3 is such a very, very stressful time of year for anybody who has a video game channel here on YouTube. So if you're wanting to see content, go check them out. Wish them the best of luck, especially those that are working long hours. I know a lot of news coverage businesses are incredibly overworked during this time of year. So do wish them the best of luck. I feel for them. Imagine being at work for pretty much 4 days or 5 days straight and just constantly, and I do mean constantly, getting bombarded with news, speculations. He said, she said, we all said, they said, oh, oops, that's wrong, or oops, that's right. Big leak, false information, happens every year, and everything gets cleared up very quickly. And that's why I'm very concerned about some of this information that comes out early outside the press conferences because it's not really, it doesn't feel official. Okay. And some people are like, official is nothing. Why should we care? And so forth. Uh, because if you're not hearing it from the horse's mouth, anybody can say it, make up the rumor, and then lo and behold, when they actually tell you the actual information, you call them a bunch of big fucking liars. Well, don't do that. Don't call them liars. Don't call them anything bad. Just be aware that sometimes people just want to spread good news or bad news or tarnish things or have wishful thinking. I can't recall how long somebody has been wishing for like a Final Fantasy VII remake, and when they finally did it, made the announcement, people have been making claims that either they're doing well or not doing well. They're abandoning the project. They're restarting the project. They're totally in control of the project. They're going to release tomorrow. They're going to release next month. Who knows? Or they'll never release it, or uh, they'll release it in such a way that will piss off people, or be completely dedicated to the original. You know, you hear that stuff all the time. Okay, so like I said, unless you hear it from the horse's mouth, as I would put it, from Square Enix themselves in their press release or on their site, I wouldn't believe them. Okay, that's just my rule of thumb whenever I deal with that stuff. And when I saw the Kingdom Hearts 3 announcement, I was very suspicious. Okay, because it was on IGN side, and I was just like, IGN, is this a legitimate thing, or are you pulling our leg? And I had to look elsewhere, and I saw it again and again and again, and to the point where I was like, okay, this must really be a thing. I'm hoping that it's a real thing, you know. But even if they said, oh yeah, we're gonna do it, you know, 6 months later, or even, 10 months later, I really wouldn't care, you know, because I've been waiting for these games for a long time. I'll probably still get them. The problem is that when you have a long, and I do mean a long development cycle, the games get boring. And so don't make us wait that long. Please, at least you're doing a better job than 15 if you're releasing here soon within the next year. You're not making us wait 10 years from announcement to release. I can't say the same thing about Final Fantasy VII Remake, mainly because of the so-called hiccups that they're dealing with inside the company with the development of that game. But what I can say for sure is there are a lot of people really hoping that it goes over well. So, anyway, I've been blabbing and blabbing and blabbing for way too long. This is what I have to say about E3. I'm hoping that the news forum, all these developers, as well as these console makers, are good. I'm hoping all the announcements are really good and nothing really negative. And I know that sometimes the fan bases of people who watch these can be really negative. We're living in a time where video games do take longer because we expect a certain standard of our video games to be. And if you really are saying video games are worse than they've ever been, go back and play some of the older games. And I'm not talking about games that released last year or the year before. I'm talking about go back, 10 years, 20 years, 25 years, you know, even 30 years ago. And you tell me that games are worse now. Because when I look at video games right now, I think we're doing great, okay, for the most part. And yes, there are some little things here and there that will disturb people, but there are also some things from back then that were just totally, in my opinion, unacceptable. And the way that some games used to be created is they were meant to be difficult to the point where the idea was we're going to have these video games in an arcade where people are putting in a quarter or two at a time to play, and if they die, that's a good thing for the company because then the company gets them to put in another quarter. And as long as you can keep them engaged, it's even better. And so the idea is that they were big money makers that way. We came over to the console gaming markets, and those same type of mechanics were still in place with limited lives, so forth. And eventually we got to the point where we started being able to save our games, which was a big thing, okay? You have no idea. And then now you're no longer required to keep putting money into it. And now we've kind of almost gone full circle where they want you to keep putting money into the games because it's a very lucrative market when you can do that. So kind of keep that in mind, and hopefully this has been somewhat entertaining. I know I've been blabbing for long enough. So, as my final farewell, I'll just say goodbye now. I'm going to do one more versus match against the CPU. And if you like seeing me die, that's great. If not, you can just go ahead and end the video now. Go ahead and put any comments, whatever you like, about what's going on with E3, maybe the things that you really hope to see at E3, or biggest disappointments if it's over, or games you're really hyped about. Let me know in the comments. I'm kind of curious. As always, I'm your host, Mune, and enjoy the final round.